now.
Adam Steer on ABC Radio Darwin.
That's it. I've had a gutful. Neighbour, oi, over here.
Yeah, what's the problem?
That problem is your mutt's been barking non-stop since, well, I don't know, you moved in all day and all night. It's driving me bonkers.
What are you talking about? Whoopi Goldberg is an angel.
Angel? It's more like a flea-ridden devil dog.
How dare you?
Well, right, look, if you won't stop the barking, say hello to... Oh, stop the barking. Say hello to Mr. Hamadrill. Has this happened to you? Is it a relatively small dispute between neighbours left to fester and then turn ugly? This is just one example of the kind of dispute that can be resolved by mediation with the Community Justice Centre here in the Northern Territory. Over the next few weeks, you and I will be learning about the work that the centre does and the ways that it could help improve your life here in the Territory. Some people who are bewildered looking at me going, what have I got myself into? Melinda Chew is the director of the Community Justice Centre. Mel, hello.
Good morning, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Claire Cowen is the practice manager at the Darwin Centre. Hello, Claire.
Hi, Adam.
And Andy Warton needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one. He's going to be a consultant mediator with the centre and also someone who likes dropping a line, catching some fish. Morning, Adam. Morning. Before we get to actually what's going on, did you catch enough fish over the weekend at the Barra Classic?
Yeah, just to clarify, I was working during the week, but I did slip out twice, and the first time 16, the second time 27. So yes, I got my fair fix of fishing.
And did Shane Compain's team win?
By a mile.
Yeah.
Over 10,000 points. It was incredible.
Well, we will talk about the debate around tech next, but that's not what we're talking about today. I'm going to start with you, Melinda. Tell me about the Community Justice Centre. What is it?
Thanks, Adam. The Community Justice Centre, or the CJC as we're commonly referred to, it's a Northern Territory dispute resolution service. So we're part of the Department of the Attorney General and Justice, and we're here to offer a free service to all Territorians.
Okay, and so it's to try and avoid people going to court? Is this sort of a simple way to describe it?
Exactly. So set up 20 years ago to take the pressure off police and courts, legal services, and really offer a way for people to work things out without ending up in court.
And how do people find out you exist? Do the police go, guess what, we've got this place that you can go to?
They do. We also get referrals through councils or community legal services, other community organisations, and people can self-refer. So word of mouth is a big one as well.
And who can use the services of CJC?
Everybody. We're here for everyone, Adam. So as you were pointing out at the beginning, it could be disputes in your neighbourhood, barking dogs and noise and loud music. It could be in your workplace. You might be having issues in a sporting club or in a committee.
So hold on. So if your boss is you think your boss is overbearing, or you think your boss is micromanaging, would be a common complaint from bosses.
Yeah,
about bosses. You could go in for that.
Any dispute in a workplace, and we encourage people to come in early.
Before you've been festering over this problem for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years.
Precisely.
Where do the mediators come from?
Really diverse backgrounds. So you'll hear from Andy and Claire. So people come from family dispute resolution, social workers, lawyers, from the police. Really, anyone can become a mediator, but there's all our mediators are nationally accredited.
Okay, well, let's get to our two mediators. Claire, I'm going to start with you. What's your background?
Hey, Adam. So, look, I started off as an educator and then really moved into counselling. I felt that I was much more interested in getting to what lies underneath for people than necessarily what they know. And it was actually on my journey of continuing to grow into that. I was doing some study that I was caseworking for a mediation organisation. So I wasn't the mediator, but I was doing a lot of that background work of getting people supported through the process. And so always heard the hard beginning of the story, and then I saw a lot of people coming through with some resolution and thought, this looks pretty interesting. Maybe I'll get into the middle. Maybe I'll have a go at mediating. And the way I did that was I came and explored mediation by doing the CJC mediation course.
And tell me, I mean, what happens when you're the mediator, when you're in the middle? How do you define your role?
So that's a great question, Adam. I think the thing that really sold me on mediation is you're not there to fix people. You're not there to tell people how to resolve their issue. You're really creating a safe and respectful space. We do that deliberately, but we support people to really to think about what matters to me about this, not just the dogs barking or the dispute over where the trees are, but there's usually something that matters more underneath for that. So we help people work that through, because people will come into a mediation with different goals and different ideas, but often when they talk about, hey, this is the real thing that I care about, and hear that from the other person, they can be creative and come up with solutions that work for everyone.
So, Andy, in your experience, once the two warring parties, for want of a better description of them, once they hear each other's sides of what's going on, does that often create resolution by itself?
Oh, absolutely. It's a game changer, because more often than not, you'll have two parties sitting there in the safe environment that Claire spoke about that we create, and they will say and hear things that they have never said or heard before in each other's presence. They are the game changers. It's quite, when it works, and it usually does, it's quite amazing to watch that happen, even to the point of, two parties sitting there with their arms crossed and their backs to each other at the start of the mediation, and the body language changing as the mediation goes on, and they hear and say more things that they hadn't heard and said before. It's incredible.
What happens, though, in a situation like Wolfie Goldberg, who's barking incessantly overnight, keeping me up day on night? How do you potentially resolve that? The dog's still barking.
Yeah, it's a good question, and we're certainly going to address that as we go through the series, because there is a model behind it, there's a process, and we're going to take you through that as the series unfolds. But the short of it is, you've got to get to the core of what this dispute is all about, what's driving it, what are the parties' interests. We know what their positions are. They don't want the dog to bark. They want to keep the dog. But what's behind it? What are their actual interests? And when you get to that, that's when you really start doing the hard work.
Well, I asked Claire, what drew you to mediation?
I was 20 years federal police, and for 6 months of that I deployed to East Timor back in 2002 with the United Nations, working in a police station in a little place called Mount Bissy, 70 k's out of Dili up the hills. And we had this dispute between two neighbours, believe it or not, common fence line. The goat was going under the fence and eating the coffee plantation. So in response, the other party stole a pig. Now, Sunday afternoon, Malbisi Police Station, the goat and the pig are brought to the police station by the two parties with 20 of their family each behind them. And we sit in the police station, and instead of charging them with trespass and theft, we basically mediate it. We figure out what those interests are. We get them to work towards a long-term plan, and they actually did live happily ever after. And when I went back to Australia, I thought, wow, that was incredible. I want to learn more about this. And the rest is history.
Well, what happened with the goat and the pig? How did they resolve it?
They resolved it by basically agreeing how they were going to behave into the future, and agreeing that taking someone's property because the goat had eaten the coffee was probably not the best response, and finding common ground, which is very important in mediation. The common ground was the actual ground. Neither wanted to move. It's family history land that goes back generations. But sometimes you have to get them in the room to do that.
You're on ABC Radio, Darwin. Adam Steer with you this morning. We're just launching the very first of our series on mediation to highlight some of the work that the Community Justice Centre does. Your special guest this morning, Melinda Chu, Claire Cowen and Andy Warton. I'm going to go back to you, Claire, for a moment. Can you give me some examples of disputes that you've mediated?
So sure, Adam. As Melinda said, originally I was mediating as a family dispute resolution practitioner, and such a powerful space where you're helping parents to work through how we're going to care for the kids now that we're separated. So one that comes to mind for me. It's unusual to work with people for many months, but in this situation I was working with parents who came in with opposite ideas of what they thought was going to be useful for the children. And so stepping it out step by step over an 18-month period really helped them to move from, you know, I want this, I want to be away from the territory with the kids, was one parent, and the other parent, I want 50-50. I want us to be sharing the parenting, and they were very young children. The common ground that Andy's been talking about this morning was we really want the kids to come through this as well as we can. So they were really courageous, and I say to people that's what I find to be a privilege as a mediator. They did all the work in terms of working through how can we have our different goals and ideas really meet what the kids need. So, you know, it took time because they were in very different.
That's a huge impasse. I need to go back to be with my family and support structures. I'm going to take the kids back down south to, no, the kids are here. I want them 50-50.
Yeah. And the common ground that they found in that is how can we continue to be parents for our children and help these young children keep developing and progressing. And I think now that I'm working for the CJC, it's a very different space, but we still do a lot of relationship mediation. One I recently did, so it wasn't about the kids, but it was actually with a parent and a step-parent. So the goal was the same. They hadn't talked to each other for 3 years. And the kids were then in the middle and feeling the pain of that, and they were becoming the messengers. And these two parents, a step-parent and parent, went, we can see this is really challenging. What can we do about our relationship so the kids can't caught in the middle? And, you know, I sat back at the end of that mediation and they were probably talking for 15, 20 minutes very comfortably between themselves because they'd found a new way to have a conversation. And that's what keeps us going in mediation is people do the hard work and find a new way of getting along.
Here's a text, what somebody's going to be able to answer. Mediation doesn't work when you're up against a narcissist. Questions and solutions from the mediator were very generic and really didn't apply to my situation.
I think it is really tough when you're in a dispute that maybe has been going on for a long time and you don't feel like the other person gets it, where you don't feel like that other person is thinking about what you need or that they're just thinking about what they need. The thing for us as mediators is really helping each person in the room to do their bit. So, you know, we're not there to try and fix or change the people in the room. We're really working with them. And as Andy said, we're going to take you through a process. It's a time-proven process. It's got flexibility. It's not the same for every case. But we really support people to do what belongs to you that you can bring a shift. And I've really found that there's always going to be a shift in a situation if one person does some work around that.
Andy, what happens after the first mediation?
Well, hopefully the dispute's resolved and some sort of agreement is reached, but it's not uncommon for people to come back a second time or even a third time in some cases. But we do a lot of work in the room. I mean, we tell people to set aside the morning or the 4 or even the 5 hours. I did one recently that went for 8 hours and got a resolution. So you've really got to work. You've got to work with the parties if you can in the one block and aim for that resolution.
Okay, so what we're going to try and do on the wireless over the next couple of weeks is do a little roadmap about how we delve into mediation. Andy, tell me how we're going to approach this.
Yeah, so very broadly, over the coming episodes, we're going to look at demystifying mediation and what your texter said before there in terms of mediation doesn't work. There are people absolutely out there with that understanding or that opinion because they might have had a bad experience. We get that all the time, don't we? We get people come in and they may have a different view of what mediation is as to what we're actually delivering at the CJC. So we're going to demystify it, tell you the way that we mediate, which, as Claire said, is a tried and tested model of mediation. We're going to look at some real-life case studies. One of the things I love about mediating is you just don't know what you're going to get. little bit like policing in some respects. You literally meet people from all walks of life. 3 weeks ago I was in the middle of Martin Place, Sydney, mediating a corporate dispute. And then a couple of weeks ago we've got a landlord-tenant dispute at the CJC and everything in between. So you'll hear some of those case studies from us, obviously de-identified. We're going to look, Adam, at some of the softer skills that mediators develop and use over their careers. And your listeners will like this because a lot of these skills you can take home and you can use around the dinner table. You know, there's disputes everywhere. There's conflict. We live in a world of conflict. Even the happiest household's going to have some conflict. Some of these skills you'll be able to take home, try it at your workplace and try it at your home. And as we move towards the closing of the series, we're hoping there might be some people out there that think, wow, this sounds really good. I'd like to become a mediator. So if that's you, we'll take you through just how you can do that.
Ooh, this might be the step for your new career. Thank you.
You, Adam, you might be like, you might want to become a mediator.
Yeah, maybe I do. Hey, Mel, has there been, like, the last couple of years obviously been quite challenging, you know? We've had COVID, we've had the pandemic, now we've had this mass rise of cost of living in the last 6 or 7 months. Does the Community Justice Centre, is there more conflict around? Are you getting more calls now than you were, say, 12 months ago or 2 years ago?
Part of what we're doing at the moment is re-promoting our service and making sure that all your listeners right across the territory know that they can call us.
Yeah.
That's a really important message right now. But what we have been seeing is increasing complexity in our cases, so that the pressures in people's lives do come through in conflict, and conflict then exacerbates what's happening in people's lives. So we really believe that by doing this work in mediation, we can create a peaceful ripple. If you can resolve the conflict, it can really, help people in day-to-day life.
Does that give you a kick sometimes as a director of the centre when you see people walking out who've clearly something that has been weighing down on their shoulders for maybe years
It's incredibly special.
has been resolved?
It's incredibly special, and we do get to see that. We get to see people give each other hugs, go for a beer. It's a thrill. And it is absolutely the reason we do it, and it's why we have some really great people coming and working with us together at CJC.
1-800 000 473. That's the number for the Community Justice Centre, 1-800 000 473. If you don't have a pen with you, which you don't, you can call us and we will let you know that number. So we'll see you next. Are we seeing you next week?
Indeed.
Okay, good on you. Thank you so much, Melinda, Claire and Andy. Have a lovely Monday. Enjoy the dry season. We'll talk soon.
Adam.
Thanks, Adam. Cheers.
It's 9:24. You are on ABC Radio Darwin. Adam Steer with you.